All right, so here's what I would be doing if I was a designer or any creative service provider stuck under 10K per month. Because really what you hear from a lot of people is that getting past 10K and making it consistent is really a watershed moment for you. And that's why a lot of people talk about 10K, because it's a nice number to reach, for one, and number two, it's really a sign that you've got into a certain point in your business. Most designers struggle to get there because what they end up doing is getting stuck in the cycle of fulfillment. And what can happen then is they're spending 90% of their week as a designer in an agency, when in reality they should be spending a bit more time being a business owner. Because we have to remember, before I start to share these ideas for you, that when you run your own design or creative business, you have to do everything. And if you were in an agency, you would be fulfilling one role. And the difference is, when you run your own business, you need to be doing all the other things that that agency needs to do to run well, which is generate work, speak to clients, make sales, create content and market yourself, manage projects, etc. So it's a lot of hats to wear, and I can see why you're overwhelmed. But what should you be doing outside of fulfillment to get to 10K a month? I want to give you a few key steps in today and some practical stuff to back that up. Number one, I would make sure that you're clear on your niche. Now, some people niche by problem. I help businesses who struggle to stand out, who are passionate, build solid, sophisticated brands. Now that's kind of one way to do it. You solve a problem. Another way to niche is by situation. I help businesses who are feeling tired and bored of their brand, or want to launch into new markets, or what's the situation your client might be in. I help them to build something at that stage. It could be by industry. I help architects build rock solid brands so they can stand out in their market. So the first thing you need to understand is, what's your speciality? I'm a big fan of industry. Everybody's different, but that works for me and a lot of my clients. Only if you can ask yourself the question, who would I work with if I could only work with one industry for the rest of my life? Who would that be? And that answer comes to you quickly. That's when you're probably ready to niche by industry. But aside from that, you might niche by the problem you solve, the situation your client's in, the stage of business they might be in, the specific service that you offer, and your style, or industry. But the big problem is if we don't have a niche and we aren't niched down, then we're trying to appeal to too many people, and what we can kind of struggle with is being lost in the crowd of other designers. So that's a big tick. If you've got that, that's great. If you're not clear on that and you don't know who your market is, that'll be the first problem to solve. Now, alongside that, we need to be able to speak at the right level for our audience when it comes to our content. So we need to get our content right, and we need to understand what level of awareness our market is at. And in relation to that, what do they need to know? What level of understanding do they need? Do they actually need to know that a brand is more than a logo? Is that what they're at? Or do they understand that they already know what a brand is, and they want to know how a brand can help them in a new way they might not have considered? We understand we need a solid brand. We didn't know it could help us to attract our ideal market. We didn't know that we could fine-tune our messaging around that to attract more ideal customers. Or it could be at a higher level. We want to work on our current brand strategy because it's not effective enough for us, or it's outdated, or whatever for us. You need to understand what level of awareness your clients are at when you're making content. So if you understand what your niche is, you want to understand who you're attracting into your business. a lot of the time, designers get stuck because they create content around basic, simple level problems that basic, simple level clients want, and they go, why aren't attracting larger clients? Because your content is talking about simple ideas that your ideal clients have heard about, learnt about, and moved on from a long time ago. A lot of us want clients who understand branding, marketing, and sales. So we need to understand that they already know this. They already know this. They just want to know how to make things better, or why they should work with you on that. So think about what level of customer or awareness you're going to be aiming your content towards. And, I'm all for, honestly, creating content for your market and not for other designers. There's a lot of people who are very successful creating content for other designers, but in my humble experience, marketing should be aimed at your ideal customer. And by the way, if you do that, you'll have a lot less competition because the market is pretty saturated at the moment with people creating content for other designers. And if you're a designer or a creator, you probably know what I mean. So we want to make sure that our content is at the right level. We don't want to be talking about simple ideas if we don't want to attract simple clients. And that's a big one. We want to be making sure we're posting content, good value, high value content 3 to 4 times a week. And I just want to give you 3 pillars to start with. You can talk about your philosophy. What's your philosophy around content? I learned this system from a clever guy called James Kemp. I've adapted it now for my clients, but I just want to keep it simple for you. So what I'll be thinking about is, what's your philosophy? What do you believe about what you do? What are some ideas around why you do what you do that you can share with your audience? Who are you helping? Who are you on the ground helping today? Talking about every single week, sharing stories of how you helped a client. The biggest and easiest way to think about that is just going, who did I work with last week? What was their problems? What were their challenges? What were their frustrations? And how did I help them? And if you want to get even more specific, what part of my process specifically worked for them? And then process. Because if you think about these 3 pillars, you've got social proof, you've got your unique, what's called a unique mechanism. So you're showing them how you do the work. And you're also telling them about you. So the client gets to buy you plus your process. So 3 to 4 times a week is what I'd be doing, because remember, the purpose of content is to build your authority. And if you're sporadic with that or you're inconsistent, it's harder to build your authority in a market. And with branding, this is, I'm sure, if you work in branding or website design or whatever you do, that consistency is something you would drill into your clients. So this is why I'm telling you, posting 3 to 4 times a week consistently is better than posting 5 times a week and then posting nothing for 3 weeks. And the big thing here will be thinking about value. How can I help the client from each piece of content? What do I want them to take away from this piece of content? How do I want them to feel? What do I want them to do after they've watched this? Give them an insight, give them something practical, or teach them something about yourself. Number 4, we've got 2 more here. I would honestly put time into learning to speak to the camera. A lot of people say that's not for me, or that's too hard, or I don't want to do that, or I'm not a natural speaker, which is, I would align myself with all those things when I first started doing video. But the thing is, it's so much easier to connect with you via video, when you can hear your voice, when you can see your face. And I bet you'd probably say to me, if I could just meet with a client, I'd be able to sell them, right? Because they buy you. So the thing is, if you want to shortcut your authority building, if you want to shortcut that path to 10K a month, I would put time into learning to speak to the camera. Start simple, start lo-fi, start when you've got a very small number of people in your audience, and just practice. Because if you do this, you'll also get things like podcasts, events, summits, and you'll be surprised, and it may seem to you that there's tons of designers and creatives who do this, but in reality, it's only a small proportion of the market that's actually doing this. So learning to speak to camera will help you sell more. It'll help clients become closer to you, so when they do meet with you, they already feel like they know you and like you, and you're the only option for them. It'll also give you a lot of benefits with speaking gigs in the future. And the last one for this, I'm going to keep it short, is create an outreach plan. And I just want to give you a simple outreach plan here, which would be, I would really highly suggest that if you can speak to 25 new prospects 4 times a week, then you're doing pretty good. Because if you can speak to 25 prospects in a week, that's 100 new prospects per week, which is pretty amazing. And if you're posting content on top of that, and you're making them offers to your market, both publicly and privately, and even if you do this, you talk to 100 people a week, and if you think about them, cold calling and cold emailing would have about a 5% close rate, if that. So DMs on Instagram, hi, nice to meet you, starting conversation, then progressing that conversation into a business conversation is what I'm all about. If you do 100 of those a week, 5% of those convert. Well, look, you've got potentially 5 clients a week, right? That's on the high end. Even if you've got 2 clients a week, even if you've got 1 client a week, that would be pretty good, wouldn't it? So the thing with this is, outreach is important. Outreach is something we don't do enough of because we don't know how to do it, but it's one of the biggest and best ways to build authority in your market alongside content and to get new opportunities for you. It takes the place of cold emailing, cold calling, networking, referral groups. It covers all of that, and all you need is a phone or a computer or a Mac and some fingers. So if you want to grab our free training on that, we actually teach a really cool process called the Kult Method. I'm going to post a link for you to grab that below. It's completely free. It's a short video showing you how to get started with outreach in your market, and it covers a lot of the things we're talking about today. But overall, if you're under 10K a month and you're stuck and you want help, please reach out or post a link. We can get in touch with me tomorrow. All the things I've shared with you are things that I've done myself and learned in my business and now teach my clients. So it's only from experience, and I wish you the best of luck. So take care. If you like this video, like and subscribe. I'll speak to you soon. See ya.